This next story is bonkers because it's multi-layered. People get really emotional about it, but I'm gonna just set it up for the potential landmine, and then I'll give my take and I'll get your take.
Okay.
So over the weekend, this was SodaGate happened. I'm like, why are we talking about soda so much? But we were talking about soda so much. It was nonstop, and it turned out that a bunch of conservative influencers like Chad Prather, like Clown World, who has 3 million followers, like Eric Daughtry, like not Jerome Powell, and so many more, were paid to post about essentially SNAP food stamps being banned on like soda products.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a fork in the road here. We can talk about whether or not we think SNAP should be used on junk food, which we will. But to me, the biggest thing was all these losers posted undisclosed propaganda. They did not disclose that it was an ad, not a single one of them. That is a Federal Trade Commission violation. That is a violation of X terms of service, and they should be fined for it. It is that simple. When you do a paid ad, you have to disclose it. That's the law.
Yeah.
And the fact that they were supposedly mega, they were doing paid ads invoking Donald Trump's Diet Coke habit, which, by the way, as far as I know, Donald Trump is not on food stamps. Okay. It was disgusting.
Like super skinny. Let's level with this here.
Yeah, team. Like I am extremely disappointed in all of these people. And I'm more disappointed in conservative Twitter, who basically just were like, this guy says stuff I agree with, so we're not gonna, these people didn't lose any followers.
Mm-hmm.
The crime is the undisclosed ads. We'll talk about the SNAP thing, but like, this is a big deal. Like, Clown World has 3 million followers and is retweeted by everybody. How many of his previous posts were undisclosed ads?
Yeah, it calls into question credibility.
Yeah, and I mean, what do you make of this? Is pretty embarrassing, I think, for like, obviously all these people are huge losers. Ian Miles-Strong doesn't even live in America, but they all posted basically the same message about, and they implied that soda was going to be banned, which was never the actual point of this. Right. What do you make of these guys be clowning themselves?
So obviously it's deeply concerning for general alternative or conservative media because of the credibility issue. You can't be on X and be like, the pharmaceutical companies are paying politicians to vote a certain way, and then turn around and not disclose that you are being paid to push something. Now, if you happen to believe this and you also can get paid for it, that's fine. I don't care. Live your life. But, it's the same thing with like when influencers get caught promoting a product that they don't use or they never have used or whatever. Like, you have to have some kind of, you put your credibility on the line. And if you really believed in it, why wouldn't you just be like, I'm getting paid to say this, I also believe it? Like,
I do that all the time when I do ad reads. When I do ad reads for a product that I actually use, I specifically say that. But I also say, this video is sponsored by, because that's the law. And I also don't say I use something if I don't use it, but I will still say it's an ad. So let's say I have an ad read for, I don't want to say, some scented candles or something like that. Like, we all know I'm a huge fan of scented candles. I will take that ad and I will take money and I will say, this is an ad for some candle company, but I'm not going to say, oh my God, yeah, I use these. I take these pills every day. You'd be surprised how many big, like, panacea cure-all pills get pitched to me. And like, the ad copy is, I've been taking this and I feel great. I'm like, you guys know I'm 100 pounds overweight and my viewers know that, right? Like, I can't do
viewers
that.
Are like, but if you feel great, we're not sure that's enough.
Yeah, like so to me, the biggest issue is that you're really a scumbag if you do not announce that you're being paid for it. If you want to
Right.
take an ad, I don't have a problem with that, but
And it
it's
just
pretty gross.
tars everybody, right? Like
That's
if you're
yes.
that's
Yes.
what bothers me. Like you're getting paid fine, disclose that, your choice, your prerogative. I don't care about that. I care about the fact that you are going to then be held up as an example of conservative or alternative or whatever you want to classify this sphere as. And now everyone is going to be like, well, but they've been marred. Everyone left or mainstream or legacy media gets to be like, oh, well, there was this big scandal because actually they were all pushing stuff they were paid for. I mean, after the binder incident, weren't there a couple different people who had basically like copy and pasted other people's posts? Like it
Yes,
was very
Chad
coordinated
Prather
response.
again did that, and
And
DC Drano.
right. And so there's this question of like, you guys build your audiences with people trusting you, and then you actually kind of hurt everybody else who's trying to support and like cross promote and build this alternative to legacy media. It doesn't seem fair to gamble with everyone's reputation.
People are saying Chad Prather did not get paid. I cannot confirm or deny that, but I will say this: people like Clown World only deleted their post after they got caught and then virtue signaled about not getting paid. It's like you didn't get paid because you deleted the post, but you only deleted the post because your ass got caught. So that is not an out. You still presented an undisclosed ad as your opinion. That is the worst thing that you can do as a personality. You sold out your followers for money, and people act like it's not a big deal. I just, if Chad Prather isn't one of, fine, people are spurging out about him. Okay. How about Clown World, Eric Daughtry, Ian Miles Chong, and not Jerome Powell? And how many others, by the way, that we don't know about? The other aspect of it is, now this is going to piss people off probably. I'll let you go first.
Okay. Send me into the fire. Great.
Yeah. Remember, she's pregnant, folks. What is your opinion on the snap banning soda?
I actually think this is fascinating, and I wish we talked about it more because on my channel, I almost did a video last week specifically on the snap situation, because about 2 weeks ago, or coming up on 2 weeks, there's a bill in Texas where they want to purge soda, chips, some other like processed foods from the SNAP benefits. And the American Heart Association sent a representative to testify against the bill.
Mm-hmm.
And like, even Not the Bee had an article on this. I think at this point it's over a week old, being like, you're the American Heart Association.
Yeah.
Like, surely you guys know that fat and sugar you have maintained for a long time are against this. And the argument was that the American Heart Association was being, one of their big donors are PepsiCo and Frito-Lay and things like that. So they have an incentive to keep these foods available or to support, like, cross support there. I find it fascinating that these things are available through SNAP. On the other hand, produce is really expensive. Like, our food system isn't great. And so I think the conversation about whether soda and chips and what we're offering to people who need assistance to get, the daily calories they need to survive, that's really important. And it makes me frustrated that it's been sort of turned into this weird other fighting point, which is kind of not irrelevant. It's still important to know about the transparency and the disclosure of being paid to make certain posts. On the other hand, I don't think that we should be using, I remember being at a Love's and they were advertising that a bottle of water and watermelon, like a cup of watermelon, was their deal was like $4, but you could get a Pepsi and a bag of Lay's for $3.
Yeah.
Like, one is 90% water. One is literally a bottle of water and a fruit that is mostly water, and it's more expensive. It's just a conversation I'd like to have, and in part because I think if we were able to subsidize, like if we're going to have a welfare program with subsidies, it would be nice if you could use them for like your local farms and produce rather than paying these big corporations.
There are other problems with SNAP too. Okay, so let me first and foremost say, everybody most people have gone through time in their life where they need help. And I don't have any issue with people who are on SNAP. There are veterans on it. There's all sorts of people that need help out there. And I don't think it makes you any less of a person. And so I think part of this conversation gets a little like, you know, dumping on people who need assistance.
Right.
The issue is SNAP stands for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Soda is not nutritious.
Mm-hmm.
Potato chips are not nutritious. And now I definitely understand people who are having it rough. And they're like, I mean, sometimes that Mountain Dew at the end of the day is literally all they have to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. But also, in my experience, if you're on SNAP, if you're on WIC, if you're on, I don't know, there's one for single mothers. I don't know what that one is.
Isn't that WIC,
another
Women,
one.
Infant, and Children?
Yes, WIC is that one. And then there's another one for like traditional. There's another EBT. They change names all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I worked at Walmart and I checked people out there. The amount of garbage that people get through on these systems is insane.
Yeah.
But we can look at the SNAP program and say they have this rule where basically you get a couple $100 a month, which isn't what it used to be. And they have this dumb rule that you can't use it on hot food. Like, I think that's supposed to say you can't use it on, like, they're trying to rule out fast food or something. But I don't have a problem with somebody using SNAP to buy like hot ham from the deli or rotisserie chicken, which is super healthy. I think it's pre-cooked or something that the rule is. It's something along those lines. That's stupid. But you can use it to buy lobster, like ribeye steaks. So it's a weird. I think SNAP needs to be overhauled.
Right. I mean, just like any kind of bureaucratic program, right? As like there is a law created and our economy, our products, whatever, they develop and change. And so it could be being misapplied in a way that we could all common sense look at and be like, no, you should be able to get rotisserie chicken on this program because that's a good source of protein and it's not you know what I mean? Like, I don't think we should be opposed to questioning whether SNAP is actually serving the people who need it, especially if the people on the program are in need, right? Like, isn't that the purpose? Why would you give the poorest people in society, people who are struggling, also garbage food, which then probably creates all kinds of adverse health effects, which they then have to struggle with, like either medical debt or, not being able to see a doctor or whatever. Like, why would we make this problem worse for everybody?
Yeah, you exacerbate it because, to expand on what you're saying, is like people are in a rough spot. It's hard to afford healthy food.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a rough spot and you're on WIC, EBT, and SNAP, you're buying junk food. Guess what you're probably also on? Government-assisted healthcare. So down the road, you can only afford to eat the worst products, and now you become a health problem that people's tax dollars also have to pay for.
Right.
I'm careful about saying, because I've never known anybody on SNAP or EBT or WIC that didn't need it. Like, I've only known people who have been on it because they got laid off, or that they, their husband ran off, or their wife, drugs, their wife went to rehab because of drugs. Yeah, I've known a lot of people on it, and they're very nice people, and they're not trying to take advantage of it. Now, just because they can buy chips and soda, so what? Like, that's what the program allows, so they can buy chips and soda. I'm not going to judge them for that.
Sure.
But I try to be somewhat like human about this kind of stuff. But I think it's pretty stupid that you can buy soda and chips on SNAP.
Right.
You don't need soda to live. You don't need chips and Pringles. And in my experience, people who are on SNAP or EBT don't have zero money.
Mm-hmm.
So they could just use their cash to buy the stuff. Every time somebody would check out, like Walmart had it in the system. So if they were paying with WIC, it would be like, this is disallowed, this is disallowed.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say, do you want to pay cash for it? And guess what? Every single time they did. Every single time they still had cash, and they paid for the stuff that WIC didn't cover. So there's this common misconception that like these people have $0 and they can't afford to buy a 12-pack of Mountain Dew if that's what they really want, which is that's not true. And like, I'm saying this because I know, because I I spent 2 years checking out people on EBT and WICs, and they called it food stamps back then. Or I think it had just transitioned to they had like a debit card instead of the actual stamps. I also know that food stamps is widely abused in the hood, and people sell that stuff like crazy and abuse the program. So in general, I mean, there are a lot of people on Wick and Snap that were buying cigarettes too. Not with
Mhm.
that, but they had money for cigarettes.
Right.
So I just don't feel that bad for you. You know, like
No. Well, and it's different. Like, you can talk about someone who's using SNAP programs appropriately, and in this case, that maybe they're buying soda, and be respectful, right? Like,
yeah,
it's not like you're a horrible person for needing assistance. I mean, there was a reason that like people donate stuff to food pantries or like their
right.
local whatever. Like, we don't want to be whether or not you want it to be funded through the government. Like, I don't think helping people out who are in a hard time is bad, and I don't think being in need and needing help is always bad. I just think in this case, like, aren't you if you are in a position where this is something you're relying on to get through your week, to feed your family, whatever, why can't you have better options? And I get the, like, a Mountain Dew at the end of the day is a treat or refreshing or whatever. Like, yeah, okay, fine. No worries there. Like you're saying, if you have another way to get it, spend the $3-4 to buy, something separate. But if it's about nutrition, you should be given the access to the most nutritious things. And we can't lie and be like, oh, well, potato chips are from potatoes, which are a vegetable.
It's
So
in the
that counts.
vegetable.
Like,
Yeah, right.
there used to
My
be this show on like TLC or something where some British chef came over and judged American public school lunches. And
oh
it was
god,
like they
yeah,
were serving, like, I don't know, like it was a breakfast program, because a lot of public schools offer everyone,
because their
regardless of
families
income.
don't feed their kids.
Right.
Right.
Or they can't. Like,
Yeah.
you want kids to come to school not starving and be able to focus, like, whatever. And I can't remember exactly, but it was like, hash browns and ketchup. And the rule was that everything needed a vegetable. And they're like, well, the ketchup is from tomatoes. And so that
Yeah.
counts. And you're like, there's so much sugar added to that.
My wife
Uh,
doesn't even let me count potatoes as vegetables.
oh
She makes
yeah,
me
I
my
wasn't allowed
vegetables
to as a
every night.
kid.
She's like, well, I can make you scallop potatoes, but what do you want for vegetables? I'm like, but that is a vegetable. She's like,
Vegetable.
no. She's like, do you want broccoli or cauliflower or corn? I'm like, damn it.
Like, this
But
is the
like,
worst. I want a
yeah,
divorce. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, yeah.
No,
But
but
she's
also,
not
like,
wrong.
is it, and it's different when you're like, if Snap or Wick or whatever's used to feed children, like, again, maybe I'm just a sentimental about to be first time mom over here, but like, I think the food that you introduce to children young helps set them up for life. And so don't we
Yes.
want children who are maybe in a family that needs extra support right now? Again, no judgment, like, these things happen, but don't we want them to be getting hooked on, like, knowing that, like, this is what a regular healthy plate looks like, rather than being like, oh, well, we could get chips, and so that's what my comfort food is. And that's what I'm
Yeah.
going to buy all the time as an adult. Like, I just don't think you're too early to introduce healthy habits. And if you're an adult who wants to have a Mountain Dew after work, like, okay, fine. But actually, this is about making you
Pay
healthier
for
and
it.
making your children
Yeah.
healthier.
Yeah. And I'm fine with you having Mountain Dew, but I just don't want to pay for it.